In the early 17th century, Europe was embroiled in a conflict that would come to be known as the 30 Years' War. This war, which lasted from 1618 to 1648, was one of the most devastating and complex conflicts in European history, involving numerous nations, shifting alliances, and religious tensions. The roots of the 30 Years' War can be traced back to the religious divisions that plagued Europe during the Protestant Reformation. The war was primarily fought between the Protestant and Catholic states, with political and territorial ambitions also playing a significant role. It was a war that tore apart families, communities, and entire nations, leaving a trail of destruction and suffering in its wake. The conflict began in the Holy Roman Empire, a loose confederation of states that encompassed much of Central Europe. The trigger for the war was the defenestration of Prague in 1618, when Protestant nobles threw two Catholic officials out of a window in protest against the growing influence of Catholicism. This event ignited a powder keg of religious and political tensions, leading to a series of conflicts that would engulf the region. The war can be divided into four main phases, each marked by different alliances and objectives. In the early years, the conflict was primarily a struggle between the Protestant Union, led by Protestant states such as Bohemia, and the Catholic League, led by Catholic powers such as Austria and Bavaria. Battles were fought across the Holy Roman Empire, with both sides vying for control of key territories and strategic positions. As the war progressed, it became increasingly entangled with international politics. The involvement of foreign powers such as France, Sweden, and Spain transformed the conflict into a broader struggle for power and influence in Europe. These nations saw an opportunity to advance their own interests by supporting one side or the other, often switching alliances to suit their goals. One of the most significant figures of the war was Gustavus Adolphus, the King of Sweden. He led a Protestant coalition against the Catholic forces and achieved several notable victories, including the Battle of Breitenfeld in 1631. Gustavus Adolphus introduced innovative military tactics and modernized his army, making Sweden a formidable force on the battlefield. The war took a heavy toll on the civilian population. The devastation caused by the conflict was widespread, with entire villages and towns being pillaged, burned, and destroyed. The civilian population suffered from famine, disease, and displacement as armies moved through the countryside, requisitioning supplies and wreaking havoc. It is estimated that millions of people lost their lives during the war. Both soldiers and the Peace of Westphalia, signed in 1648, brought an end to the 30 Years' War. This treaty established a new order in Europe, recognizing the principle of state sovereignty and granting religious freedom to Protestants. It also redrew the political map of Europe, with territorial changes and the recognition of new states. The 30 Years' War had far-reaching consequences for Europe. It marked the end of the religious wars that had plagued the continent for decades and ushered in a new era of state-centric politics. The war also weakened the Holy Roman Empire and paved the way for the rise of nation-states. It left a legacy of devastation and trauma, but also laid the groundwork for the modern system of international relations. In conclusion, the 30 Years' War was a complex and devastating conflict that shaped the course of European history. It was a war driven by religious, political, and territorial ambitions, with shifting alliances and international involvement. The war brought immense suffering to the people of Europe, but it also laid the foundation for a new order based on state sovereignty and religious tolerance. The memory of the 30 Years' War serves as a reminder of the destructive power of war and the importance of diplomacy and peaceful resolution of conflict.